God has brought a space of grace for you today that He wants to separate that confusion and let you make a rational decision that I'm going to make a commitment to God. I'm going to live for God no matter who comes or who goes. Amen. Let's give the Lord a hand up.
Amen.
So about 13 years ago, I was sitting at my table and I was missing my dad real bad, and I never got to tell him how I really felt. So now I'm from Texas. You can't tell anybody I did this, okay? I wrote a poem. And that's a miracle for Texas. We can't even speak well. Amen. And I wrote a poem, and I just wrote it down. I didn't change it. I just wrote it down, what I was feeling, and I wrote this to my dad. And I want to show you what the space of grace can do. Going from bitter, learning how to say yes to life's not fair, learning how to say yes that everything changes in the end, learning how to say yes that everything changes in the end, things don't go according to plan. Life's not fair. People don't always want. All those 5 absolutes came to play in my life. And I wrote this down, and you can see how when God removed that confusion, this is what I began to say. Looking over my shoulder and back through the years, I was fighting to hold back my bitter tears. His words of advice and correcting hand at times seemed hard for me to understand. There were times he would say no and give me a stern look, turning the pages of my heart as if he was reading a book. And yes, there were times when I didn't get my way, so I moved out of my own to do as I may. As I started on the journey that was all about me, I lost the one thing that could help me see. Masking the pain that was hid inside, I was living my life that was full of pride. Those were my early teenage years when I was trying to deal with all those nameless fears. Laughing and partying with a few of my friends, then seeing firsthand how fast it all ends. I was told the news that my father passed away, so I sat down in my grief with nothing to say. After 7 long months, and then finally I cried, accepting the fact that my father had died. Even though time has taken his voice from me, his words still ring true, and his wisdom I now see. And it was then that I realized I was no longer sad, because I remember the things I learned from my dad. Sometimes I hear his voice as I'm correcting my son. I hope when in the memories of my dad for a job well done. I hope when I'm gone my children won't be sad, but remember the things they learned from their dad. I love you, Dad. You see, I came to the place where I was willing to say yes. I was able to say yes to these absolutes in life instead of let them bury me and let bitterness get in and stay there and fester up and cause me to be mad at the world and angry at the world. That day on April 9th, God removed all the confusion. He separated that confusion. I was able to make a rational choice, and I've never regretted it, and I've never turned back, because I was able to say yes to these absolutes in life. Amen. I found that anything that crosses swords with my so-called entitled ego, we all have these entitled egos where we think things should go a certain way for us. Amen. It's a powerful source of transformation and inner growth if you are able to say yes to these absolutes. Amen. I tell you what, God, somebody said, well, I can handle my pride. You sure can until it's crossed. Amen. Pride's easy to handle till it's crossed. The 5 simple facts of life defy and terrorize us. The mighty ego, the self-worth, or our pride. Notice what it said. It insists on full control. See, that's what our problem is. When we start living life horizontally, we start trying to control things. But see, when you live life vertically, you hear that still small voice, and you're able to exhale, and then when you lay everything at the altar, now you inhale, and God fuels you back with His inspiration, with His power, with His desires. Amen. And when you get up from there, you begin to see people different. You don't see them as normal. You see them as what God sees them like. Amen. Life happens to all of us in its own way. No matter how much we try to protest or we seek to avoid it, you can't avoid those absolutes. They're going to come. No one is or has ever been exempt from life's uncompromising absolutes. Nobody has ever been exempt from them. We cannot accept them, and we add stress to our lives by fighting a losing game. We're losing our spiritual passion. See, that's what the devil wants. He wants to isolate you. He don't want you to have an inlet coming in. He wants you to be a puddle. In Texas, we got puddles after it rains. And That's where the breeding ground for mosquitoes, because there's no water coming in, there's no water going out. So it sits there and it stagnates, and that's how mosquitoes begin to breed and stuff. And see, that's how it is in the church. The devil wants to make you a puddle. He wants you to be a loner. He wants you to be by yourself. He doesn't want you to participate in the things the church participates in. Amen?
Amen.
Amen? Amen. If I got up here and I started speaking, my hands started doing this while I'm trying to talk, and you wouldn't hear much about what I'm saying. You'd be distracted by my hand. Amen?
All right.
So that's how it is in church. When the church is having church, you got people that want to have prayer meeting. When people are having prayer meeting in the church, they want to have church. And it's a distraction to everything else because they never learn how to work in harmony with the church and the pastor. Amen?
All right.
I've been in this thing 38 years, and every pastor I had never had one problem with me. You know why? Because I believed in his vision. And I wanted him to know that I was going to fill them pews up, and I was going to do everything I can to bring revival to this church, because I wanted him to be able to preach to people that were lost. Amen. I wanted him, man, my pastor, he preached so good when there were sinners there. Amen. And I'm going to tell you, it brings a fire in them when they see you bringing people into the church. But you've got to learn how to say yes to these absolutes in life so that you don't get caught up in the horizontal, but you always learn how to get with the... How much time do I got?